The finish line of the second Arctic Vendee, Charlie Dalin, has been closed since the arrival of the last competitor, Kojiro Shiraishi, DMG, Mori Global 1, Saturday, June 18 at 10:33 p.m. The classification is now official.
Welcome to the last daily live in English show of the 2022 Vendee Arctic Les Sables d'Olonne. I'm your new host, Chris Museler, standing in for Andy Robertson. And this race has been quite an adventure. You know, a deep, low pressure system dominated the course, and the race was paused, then finished in Iceland, and now the fleet is carefully making its way back to Les Sables d'Olonne. It's been a challenging race for everyone involved, and even some of the skippers retired within just a couple of hours sailing of the finish line, and that just shows you how tough the conditions have been out there. The conditions have moderated a little bit, but you know, there are a lot of breakages in the fleet. This is what the regatta is all about, heading up to the Arctic where the conditions are tough. Let's go look at some of the rankings. And going down through the list, of course, Charlie Dalin in APIVIA predicted that the usual suspects would be in the top 3, and they were. And Charlie almost predicted himself to be the winner. So we had Charlie Dalin in APIVIA in first, Jérémie Beyou and Charal in second, and Thomas Ruyant in third place in LinkedOut. So we've talked about these second-generation foilers like APIVIA and Charal, but in the top 10, there were four out of the top 10, so almost half of the top 10 fleet were daggerboard boats. So those are first-generation type designs, but they've been modified, and they're non-foiling boats. But in fourth place was Benjamin Ferry. And so Benjamin, you know, really put on a great show with a boat that isn't necessarily, to everyone's opinion, supposed to go super fast all the way around the course. But he's heavily influenced by Vendee Globe legend Jean Lechem, who has really refined the straightboard, non-foiling concept in the IMOCA class. And it's really proving to be a valid approach to these long-distance ocean races that are so diverse, like we've seen in this race, that was stopped halfway through. Let's see. Moving on, as we go through the rankings, we have the internationals, and the top international was Alan Rora, the Swiss sailor. He is sailing Alex Thompson's old Hugo Boss from the last race, which kind of broke apart during that race, and Alex Thompson had to retire. But Alan has his heart set on making big strides with this boat. It was something that Alex Thompson didn't even have the full handle on it, even though it was leading the last Vendee Globe for quite a bit down across the equator. And so Alan was in 7th. And then in 12th place, Carlo Pedote. He is an Italian. We spoke with him earlier today. He just barely made it across the line and had a hard time finishing up. But he's limping his way back and just fixed his mainsail. Pip Hare in 13th place, made some big strides in this race. And Conrad Coleman, who we'll have on live momentarily, was in 18th place, and Kojiro Shiraishi was in 20th place, a former Vendee Globe competitor. So I think there were about 5 abandonments in this race, which shows you how tough it is, and Conrad Coleman was almost one of those sailors inching up to the line, and we're going to talk to him about that in a moment. So I'm ready for Conrad when everyone else is. Okay. Awesome. Sorry about that. So we are going to move on. We just talked about Carlo Pedote, and he's going to talk about some of the challenges that he had after finishing the race nearing Iceland to show you how tough the conditions are.
Finally, my mainsail have a problem. I have broken in one part of the sail, and one pin of the button broken, and so it was not possible to sail with main. So I start from Iceland without mainsail, and then I repair a short reparation when the wind fall down this night. And now I have my main again, but it's not comfortable to sail without one button. I don't want to take a risk. I try to don't make a lot of effort in the sail and repair as quickly as I can. The condition in Iceland was not great because a lot of katabatic wind that came from the mountains, and the wind passed from 5, 7 to 25. You don't have the time to take one reef that you need to take two one shot. IMOCA are difficult boat, very technical. It's not like a mini Transat that you can do it. But a lot of boats have a problem in the main, not just me. This means that the conditions are not the best for our boat. And of course, who crossed before us crossed in another situation and another condition, very different from our condition. So I was a little bit tired, that's all, nothing more. Me and the boat, we never finish to be better. So this is the goal, to be better, me and the boat.
That was great to hear from Giancarlo. And when he referred to being a little bit tired, I had asked him, he had a video that came out today talking about what happened to him coming up to Iceland, a big katabatic wind coming from the north off of Iceland. And during the end of the day, that happens in different islands. And he was really emotional in that video. And I had asked him about that, and his response was, well, I was a little tired. But these races really take their toll on the sailors. And even though the race is over, these sailors are working their way back down. They're less than halfway back from Iceland. And we talked to Pip Hare a little bit about this, too. She's taking the time to, she got her boat across in one piece. She was 12th. She reached her goals. And we talked to her a little bit about some of the improvements that she can make in herself, what she's looking forward to, and just where she stands with her racing right now. Well, hey, I just wanted to ask you a couple brief questions as you're kind of settling into the next stage of this trip. The race actually looked like it went really smoothly for you, and you talked a little bit yesterday about you finding yourself in a good place in your progression with the new boat and with yourself. Did everything go as smoothly as it looked, or you seem like you have a new maturity in terms of your rhythm?
Thank you very much. That's very kind. I think I'm a bit like that swan, I might look like I'm gliding on the surface, but underneath there's a lot of frantic paddling going on. I mean, it's a massive learning process. And I've just had to kind of readjust my focus and come at it from a different way. But I think I'm so much happier with how I performed in this race. I had problems. I made some really stupid errors. I overpressurized one of my ballast tanks and it cracked, which was just dumb. And I'm still not getting my sail changes right, but I was really comforted to hear Charlie yesterday saying that he's not getting his right either, so maybe that's common across the fleet. But I'm really pleased with my performance in that race. I know there's room for improvement, and that's what's kind of pleasing.
Awesome. And I guess just a final question is, the race itself is over, but things really aren't over. You're still in the North Atlantic, and it's not easy. What does your next 24 hours look like for you? In what mode are you sailing?
So yeah, you're right, and I don't think any of us are taking it lightly being up here. We do have really favourable conditions to get back at the moment. It's a reach, and as we head down the coast of Ireland, the wind will slowly decrease. So at the moment, I'm just trying to get south quickly, but I'm in sort of cruising mode. So I'm reefed down and I'm using my J2, not my fractional, but I'm still trying to sail fast because I don't want to hang around up here any longer than I have to. But balancing that out with, a couple of technical issues I've got on board, and just kind of making sure that primarily the boat stays safe.
That's great. Well, I know you're catching up on your rest, so we just wanted to thank you for taking the time to speak with us today, and keep on keeping on.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll make a cup of tea and go back to bed.
Cheers, Pip.
Bye.
It's always great to hear such a positive voice on the other end. Giancarlo was, pretty stressed out like a lot of the sailors are, but Pip really, like a lot of the sailors, they have to keep things in perspective. I know when she finished the last Vendee Globe, she replaced a rudder underway. She was doing a lot of the work herself and prepping. She had a very tight team, but it was absolutely fantastic. And her sponsor went to her and said, let's go pick out another boat. So her dreams have been coming true, and she said the next stage of her career is now that they have a lot of resources, she still has to do a lot of the work, a lot of the leg work, a lot of the planning, a lot of the boat work. And so the next level, when we look at where Alan Rohrer is on his next stage of his Vendee Globe journey, and a couple of the other sailors, Pip was saying that next level is then working on myself. I need to work on myself as much as I work on the boat. And she has a really great foundation with a really positive attitude. And this race was not easy. This race was, we're going to wrap this up now, but this race was, this is the second time they've done it. First time they did it in 2020 was because all the events were canceled and leading up to the 2020 Vendee Globe start, and they needed something to test the boats. They needed something to qualify the skippers, and this race was created. It's an amazing adventure. It's an amazing adventure now, and just to prove it, both times the goal was to go around Iceland, and both times the conditions were so tough that they couldn't make it. And like Giancarlo said, up in that area, it's not like the Southern Ocean. It's very changeable. The Southern Ocean can be predictable. So one of the things that we like to talk about here are the teams, and we'd like to thank a lot of the teams that helped put this together. The race. Okay, sorry. Before we say thank yous, we have Conrad Coleman on the line. Like we were talking about before, I just kind of prepped that with you that he was one of those people that looked like they were close to retiring, and we're going to find out what was slowing them down right before the finish.
Hi, Chris. Yeah, it was pretty wild. You were just talking about the Southern Ocean there, and the difference from this race is that in the Southern Ocean, you've got sort of time to prepare. You know the storm is coming. You can pick your entry and exit points. But here we were pretty close to Iceland, and we had a waypoint to get to, and we just had to go straight through this massive storm. So had I think 18 hours where the wind was averaging 50 knots, and not downwind but on a reach, so it was really quite dramatic. And I had sailed my J2 furling jib, got stuck halfway out. There was a problem with the furling unit, and I couldn't furl it either in or out, and so the sail itself blew up eventually. And then I had a number of other problems with my steering system and a mainsail batten, and actually had to stop the boat 10 miles before the finish line and have a huge session where I just went through one problem to the next, to the next, to the next, and knocked them all off, and then I could finally get the boat going again and cross the finish line.
Yeah, so Conrad, like when people look on the tracker and they see a boat going 0 or 2 knots really close to the finish, they really worry. We were worried about you. And but it's not like you haven't been through some tough times. You inched your way across the finish of your Vendee Globe with a jury rig, which was absolutely amazing. But what kind of reserves were you pulling on, in that last? Did you kind of have to have a chat with yourself to say, I'm going to make these next couple miles and if it kills me, or what?
No. I certainly felt well within my capacities as a sailor and as a technician to get the jobs done. Although replacing a full-length mainsail batten by yourself is pretty tricky. Normally, it's a tough job with 2 people on a nice flat surface, and here I was in the boom trying to install it myself. And so I made up a contraption that allowed me to pull and push things all at the same time from different places. So you really have to. It gets overused a little bit, but you do have to be the ultimate MacGyver in this world, because you're pushed to, as you say, look within yourself to find the resources to get the job done, but also be pretty creative in the ways that you can find solutions. But in terms of looking within myself to find the resources, earlier that day I actually had to climb the mast in a small lull in the middle of the storm, in order to climb the mast and cut away the top of the jib that had exploded. That was so I was doing a slow climb up, chopping using sharp knives on the mast that was moving around pretty dramatically. That's legitimately scary, and I had a bit of a chat with myself before I went to go do that.
I can imagine, and it's quite death-defying going up the rig anytime or checking on any of those things. I got to ask you just two more quick questions, Conrad. First of all, what are the conditions like right now? Are you in kind of cruise mode?
Yeah, very definitely in cruise mode. I don't even have my boots on, so I'm inside, I'm comfortable. I've got 20 to 25 knots of wind, and I have, whoa, that's my sleep alarm just going off. Sorry. And I've been sleeping a lot, trying to catch up on some energy and trying to feel human again. So yeah, life is good.
Great. And the last question, this is the first qualifier for the Vendee Globe, first of 5 qualifiers that everyone has a chance to qualify for the next Vendee Globe. And, it seems like a long way away, but, you're a non-French person hasn't won the Vendee Globe yet. You have really high aspirations. I've known you for a long time, so I know you've been driven and you've gotten this far. What needs to be done in your program, either for yourself personally or for the boat and team between now and 2024? What's on your big to-do list? What are the top two?
Sure. Okay. Well, that's pretty simple. First off, 2024 is tomorrow, in the way that we think about these things. And so it's really not a lot of time at all. And most crucially, I need to secure my budget. I'm in the process of negotiating with partners, because at the moment my boat is green and black and has no logos on it at all. So I've been doing this largely as an entrepreneurial activity, backing myself and then trying to find sponsors. So yeah, what's clear is I need to demonstrate that I'm a good candidate, find sponsors that are interested in getting into the Vendee Globe world and talking to the English audience. And then that really unlocks everything. It means that I can optimize and make the boat reliable, to put in a really good entry, and focus on performing rather than just surviving. So that's the key thing.
Awesome. Well, super simple, right? Well said, Conrad. And thanks so much for sharing with us. We want you to have a really safe passage. We've been cheering you along. All your fans in the USA and New Zealand and then around the world. You've got fans around the world. So thanks for taking the time with us, Conrad.
That's great. Always nice to talk to you, Chris. Thanks very much.
Be safe. All right. Well, back to our thank yous. This race has been unlike anything anyone expected. It's been hard. It's been windy. It's been quite an adventure for all the sailors. Every one of them has stories, even the top group of sailors. Even just picking up a mooring in the middle of a fjord in the middle of nowhere. What crazy experiences these sailors have been having. And, that's ocean sailing. You never know where you're going to end up. You just know you're starting out on an adventure no matter where you go. So just to thank everyone involved, all the sailors, their teams that make this happen, the Vendee Globe organization, the Vendee Globe, the department in Vendee, the Vendee region, and to our team here, the media team. It's been fantastic, but most importantly, we would like to thank you, the fans of all the sailors and everyone who watches this. This is why the sponsors join in. So it's you being inspired by these sailors that make this all work. So thanks so much, and we'll see you on Sunday, a week from now, for the awards ceremony. So see you next time.
Well, it's the morning after the night before. Whew, what a party. I think the whole fleet turned around, headed south, and once we were through the worst of the gale, we've all just been trying to bank as much sleep as possible. Everyone is totally exhausted. I've been messaging a few of the other skippers this morning, and everyone's the same. They've just been, I've been sleeping as much as I can. What a race, though. Everything we expected it would be. I mean, it's challenging coming up to the north. Iceland is a lot further north than we go south in the Vendee Globe. It's cold, as we saw, the weather is fierce, and so it ended up being a really challenging race in many aspects. 13th, I'm happy with that. I think I mapped out what success looked like for me at the beginning of the race, and it was kind of just managing myself and the boat a bit better, but also staying in touch with those other boats that are similar to mine, similar design, similar age, and I feel that I did that. I finished just behind Giancarlo. You know, at times I was kind of right up with them, at times ahead at the start. I did a really good leg at the start, and I think the interesting thing is that I'm actually pretty good at sailing the boat fast in breeze in a straight line. Where I struggle is light stuff, and also just making the right decisions at transitions and sail changes and those sorts of things. And those are the things that I know I need to work on. Good things that I learned during the race. Well, all the time, when the boat's going fast, it's a new skill to just exist on board. And it's not just existing, it's not just eating, sleeping, you know, checking the boat, maintaining, all that sort of stuff. It's when you have a problem, and I had a problem just, I don't know, about 36 hours before the finish, where my alternator wasn't charging the batteries. It was really worrying actually, because the batteries got right down again. The alternator just wouldn't charge, so I spent about an hour messaging with Joff trying to fault find, and then the boat was still doing, you know, 20 knots, and the motion had been quite violent, and I had my head torch on, and I was right in the engine bay, underneath the engine, tracing wires, looking for fuses, and all the time you're kind of just in a position where you're trying not to headbutt the engine if the boat suddenly stops, and managing to do that sort of work in those conditions is another level from, you know, the last boat I had. So all of this is a learning curve, and I'm building experience. I mean, in terms of the race and how it ended, I was gutted, because I did feel like I was really starting to find my stride, and, you know, had we carried on for another 2,000 miles, then, you know, I think I could have climbed some more places in the fleet. But I think the race management didn't really have any other option but to stop the race because of the way that things evolved. The low pressure system we were in was a nasty one. I saw 43 knots, but I know that the boats behind me were actually in worse conditions than I was. They saw a lot more wind. The sea state was really big. Coming back today, or last night, it died down a bit. It was 35 knots for about 8 hours yesterday, and that was frisky enough, but, you know, we were able to sail the boats in a fairly conservative manner, so reef down and with small sails, and that's a different proposition from racing through those conditions. Still got a long sail home. I'm just level with the top of Scotland at the moment, but me and, you know, all the other skippers, I think, are really kind of just taking it easy, and certainly everyone last night was banking as much sleep as possible, so we were all alarmed up to the hilt and kind of just gingerly progressing south. So lots of learnings, lots and lots of learnings, but I'm super happy with my results. It's definitely a step in the right direction, and I'm still on the way up.
Bon bah c'est le moment de partir. Allez, faites les valises, on se casse.
Samedi soir, les 3 derniers skippers ont coupé la ligne de la Vendée Arctique. Conrad Coleman, Fabrice Amedeo et Kojiro Shiraishi portent à 20 le nombre de marins ayant bouclé cette éprouvante course.
This race has been wild since the beginning, and not the best race result ever, but let me tell you, I'm pleased it's over, but it builds good things for the rest of the season, so I decided to get stuck in, and now I'm excited to celebrate crossing that finish line. Cheers.
En tout cas, ça a vraiment été dur, je suis super fier d'avoir bouclé celle-là.
Et on en a chié pour venir ici. Wouhouhou! Que c'est beau! Ah, la récompense! Ah, la putain de récompense! Elle fait du bien celle-là!
raison d'avaries de gréement, le coureur japonais Kojiro Shiraishi est allé s'abriter au mouillage dans un fjord en attendant l'arrivée de son équipe technique. Denis Van Venberg, contraint à l'abandon samedi, attend lui aussi en Islande une assistance technique après avoir perdu un safran. Samedi soir à minuit, après avoir laissé passer la tempête, Thomas Ruyant et Charlie Dalin ont quitté l'Islande pour mettre cap au sud, en mode convoyage, comme le reste de la flotte, vers les Sables d'Olonne. Ils sont attendus en milieu de semaine.
Pour 4 jours et demi de nage, je pense, pour retrouver la France et des températures un petit peu plus chaudes.
Ça y est, redépart vers les Sables d'Olonne. Après une escale islandaise.
Je suis en mode convoyage quoi, en mode cool. Retour à la maison quoi. Wouh.
Bon Jérémie, c'est l'occasion de dernier bord avec ton Charal 1.
Ouais, effectivement. Il y en aura peut-être quelques autres derrière. Mais en tout cas, ouais. En tout cas, c'est les dernières courses, c'est les dernières nuits à bord, ouais, c'est sûr. Donc voilà, j'essaie de faire attention à lui. On a rendu service et donc voilà, j'essaie de le ramener dans l'état dans 3-4 jours.
C'était un bon compagnon d'aventure pendant 4 ans?
Ouais, c'est sûr que j'ai eu pas mal de sensations sur ce bateau. Ouais, c'est un super bateau. Tout de suite, dès qu'on a navigué avec, les toutes premières naves, on a senti qu'il y avait quelque chose de particulier avec ce bateau, qui était le premier bateau avec des grands foils, quoi. C'était le premier IMOCA qu'on a réussi à faire ses grandes volées. Donc voilà, et derrière, il y a eu la petite volée, et puis le faire progresser, et puis on a fait tellement de courses avec tel bon résultat que voilà, j'ai passé quand même quelques heures, quelques jours, mais quelques mois sur ce bateau.
Tu le disais, hein, quelque part, il a sa place dans l'histoire dans l'histoire des Open 60, ce bateau.
Ouais, je vais pas pour écrire l'histoire, je te laisse ça, Fred, mais un peu quand même dans l'histoire des photos, des chocs de moto, ouais, quelques-unes avec Charal.
Ouais, on regardera sur le site aftoner.com pour savoir quelle est la place de Charal. Avec un tout petit peu de recul, quel bilan tu fais de cette deuxième Vendée Arctique, les Sables d'Olonne, pour toi?
Le bilan est super bon. C'est encore une place sur le podium avec ce bateau-là avec qui j'ai réussi à en gratter quand même un bon paquet. Une place sur le podium, la deuxième place en plus. C'est une navigation stratégiquement qui est quand même vraiment simple. Stratégiquement, même, effectivement, c'est super complet. On a commencé par un bord très rapide. Et on était vraiment à la limite du bateau. Derrière, juste après, ça l'a passé, au portant derrière,
on a une séquence de molle devant le front avec des petits minimums qui s'installent à passer. Enfin, c'est l'enchaînement un peu off. Dans les phases de transition, il fallait vraiment pas perdre le nord parce que ça se jouait à rien du tout. C'est des petits contrebords, des petits ajustements de trajectoire. Il fallait croire en sa position aussi. Voilà, donc les derrière se sont déplacés dans l'est. Voilà, parce que c'était leur trajectoire initiale. Et puis c'est vrai qu'au début, ça a commencé à bien passer pour eux. Comme ça, faut pas prendre panique, quoi. De toute façon, à un moment, quand tu progresses 3 nœuds, tu vas pas traverser tout ça. Donc, et surtout, notre option au final, c'était la bonne. Donc voilà, fallait bien s'appliquer, bien naviguer dans l'option dans laquelle on était. Et dans le stock, j'ai plutôt fait. Alors, il y en a un devant, hein, donc c'est que lui aussi a bien fait les choses. Il a réussi Charlie à s'en un petit peu dans la salle. Voilà, il était déjà un petit peu devant, il a un peu plus vite au début. Il s'est retrouvé devant, il est un peu barré, puis il a réussi à garder son écart et à faire fructifier. Et sur la fin, c'est moi qui ai réussi à revenir, donc c'est plutôt une satisfaction. Voilà, c'est une course complète avec une deuxième place à l'arrivée, donc je suis super content.
J'ouvre un autre sujet, t'es dans quel état physiquement?
Je suis bien vidé là, je me réveille. Ouais, je suis bien attiré. Et encore une fois, c'est vraiment, je suis à le départ, hein, c'est le son sud-nord ou nord-sud. C'est vrai que tu subis beaucoup des phénomènes qui traversent ta route, donc et ça s'enchaîne pas mal, quoi. Donc physiquement, fallait être réveillé tout le temps, quoi. Donc c'est vrai que une fois arrivé en Islande, j'étais bien cuit, et puis les 48 heures passées en Islande, là, 36, enfin, je sais plus. Je me suis pas beaucoup reposé parce qu'à la cape il y avait énormément, donc voilà. Ouais, j'ai réussi à enlever tirer mes bottes. C'était pas le cas depuis le départ. Ouais, parce que l'idée c'était vraiment de se préparer éventuellement à un nouveau départ. Donc j'ai pu me reposer, mais en fait le vent la nuit derrière est vraiment monté. Donc c'était quasiment impossible de se réparer, de réparer et reposer. Donc bien content la lampe parce que ça devenait vraiment pas très praticable. J'ai croisé forcément en descendant hier, j'ai croisé les derniers qui étaient en train de franchir la ligne d'arrivée là, de finir au pré. C'était pas drôle pour eux, hein. Voilà, les gars, ils avaient plus de grands voiles, les grands voiles déchirés, les voiles d'avant déchirées, plus de safran. Il y en a un ou deux qui m'ont raconté leur mésaventures. Voilà, ils ont fini dans 50 nœuds au près dans une mer qui était vraiment affreuse. Donc voilà, moi j'étais content de partir de là-bas et ouais, donc là en convoyage, le vent est un peu irrégulier, mais j'y vais tranquille. Le problème de nos bateaux, c'est que soit ils volent et ils sont à plus d'un nœud, soit tu voles pas et je suis plutôt option 10 nœuds là et j'essaie de me reposer parce que la suite je suis en forme pour la mise à l'eau du chat.
Dernière question, Jérémie, je te libère, comme ça tu pourras te reposer. Juste pour revenir sur le côté physique, avec l'histoire de bottes et tout, là, tu mets combien de temps pour récupérer physiquement d'une régate de ce type-là? Qu'est-ce que tu fais aussi pour récupérer rapidement?
Écoute, tu mets pas mal de temps, hein. C'est vrai que pendant une semaine, t'es un peu nulle part. Et puis en moyenne, je pense que tu mets un mois ou deux avant d'être à plein régime pour retourner faire une course du même type. disons qu'entre toute la phase de repos pur, puis toute la phase de redémarrage, de réathlétisation et de phase d'entraînement, il se passe 2 mois avant que tout soit en route et que même mentalement en fait tu recroches bien dedans donc voilà. Et puis là on a quand même enchaîné 2 quasiment à la suite avec la Bermuda 1000. Celle-ci était quand même un petit peu plus fine encore, donc un petit peu de repos ça va faire du bien. On va mettre Charal 2 à l'eau là dans 2 semaines et voilà, on va naviguer tranquillement avec et on sera prêt au mois de septembre pour faire l'Azimut. Ça sera largement bien pour être compétitif, en tout cas pour le skipper, quoi.
Bon, ok, bref, t'es au taquet, quoi. Merci beaucoup. Bon vent, bonne mer et bonne sieste.